What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got an absolutely spectacular display in this duel for you guys to check out. I have talked about Dino Mist many a times on this channel because I believe that the deck has so much untapped potential. It's not even just because, Heavy Metaphors, Electromite obviously helped like every Pendulum deck ever, but really when you look at the makeup of the Dino Mist archetype, the fact that they're water, so you can go into things like Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome, those are really good plays, and the fact that they're machine based as well. This allows you to go into Cyber Dragon Nova, then rank that up into Infinity, and these are really good, excellent cards that the archetype can make. But I've never seen a play that is this absolutely ridiculous. If you splash in some of the Symphonics, the stuff that you can do with Dino Mist is just utterly ridiculous. Like, man, this was incredible, and I was actually just in awe of this player at the bottom. So you can see that he opens up pretty good, has the Dino Mist charge Rhoda, and then he's just going to go ahead, he's going to summon his Ceratops from his hand, and then he gets the Electromite on board. So at this point, he has his Electromite online. Dino Mist charge is going to add one of the cards back to his hand. He's going to go ahead and dump one of his guys into the graveyard. Going to go ahead and pop his Symphonic, not that big of a deal. Here comes the Pendulum Summon, and at this point, he's going to make the Cyber Dragon Nova Infinity play, and a lot of you guys are like, okay, Cap, this is generally what we expected of the deck. A turn 1 Infinity is nothing out of the ordinary for Dino Mist, but is this really that good? Can this keep up with the meta? And honestly, even if he ended right here, I would have to say that this is a pretty respectable turn 1. You have Infinity as your main disruptor for your opponent. You still have your Heavy Metaphors Electromite. That's a body on board. If your opponent does happen to pop one of your back row, especially if they go after this one, the Pateran, not only will it add itself to to your hand because of the Dino Mist charge, but then you'll actually draw a card as well. And then, he still has the Dino Mist Rex, which is a big beater, but he is not even, like, he's nowhere near close to done. Gonna activate the Warrior Guitarist. That turns him into Needle Fiber. He special summoned from his hand, not actually from his deck, and then he turns that into a copy of Summon Sorcerers, and this is very, very important, right? He's going to activate Summon Sorcerers to get another machine out from his deck, and this one right here, the Symphonic Warrior Drums, this is a card that has the ability to change the attributes of the monsters or of the symphonic monsters that you control, and it can do it from the graveyard. This is so ridiculously important. You're going to see why in a hot second. Whoops, I meant to actually play it. You see right there, he's making the monster water. This means he can go into DeLorean. He's going to bounce all his pendulum scales and his Dino Mist charge back to his hand. Some of you guys are like, what the hell is he doing here? Then he's going to activate his other symphonic that's going to revive the one that he just banished, and check that out. He's able to go into Borload Savage Dragon. Then he's going to do some more attribute adjusting. He is now making the monsters into, well, they were originally wind, but he's going to turn them into earth monsters. Why is he going to do that? Oh yeah, so that he can go ahead, he can drop a Naturia Beast on his opponents just for the hell of it. And look at the board that he ends with. Borload Savage Dragon, almost 4,000 attack with 2 negates. He's got Naturia Beast, so there will be no spells activated. And then he has a 2,900 Cyber Dragon Infinity. And even if somehow he lost all of this, he still has full complete Pendulum Scales, because not only does he have the Pateran in his hand, which is a Pendulum Scale 3, he also has the Dino Mist charge that he can activate during his next turn, and he can search out a Scale 6, any one of his Dino Mist monsters that are Scale 6. So he does have the ability to Pendulum Summon during his next turn as well. What's on top of his deck, I wonder? He's getting a Luster Pendulum. So yeah, he could Pendulum Summon that, and he could Pendulum Summon another monster from his extra deck, and it's like, what are you going to do against this? Now, it doesn't really help his opponent is playing like Salamangreats. He doesn't have any, maybe it's, I don't know what it is, honestly. It's like Cyber Salamangreats. Oh man, I feel like Salamangreats can only be great if they're running the Fusion OTK cheese, so obviously he's gonna get smacked the hell down. He doesn't really have any live plays, but let's be real, who would really have any live plays against this deck? Wait, I thought he had Luster Pendulum on top of his deck. How did he draw? Did he shuffle or something? I could have swore he had Luster Pendulum on top of his deck, and then he drew the Sky Striker Eagle Booster. Okay, that was just kind of weird, but anyways, that was absolutely epic. I never thought of running that card, the Symphonic Warrior that adjusts the levels, the drums, but you saw him use it multiple times in a turn, or excuse me, not levels, but the attribute, and you saw him use it multiple times to great success, and it was pretty damn ridiculous what he was able to do. But I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna show you guys with the deck because I'm sure that there are some people who are interested in that. Okay, so here's what the deck looks like on paper. I just looked at Eagle Booster, and I think the reason that this card is used, I think it's specifically to protect Electromite or maybe Needle Fiber if you go straight into Needle Fiber. I assume that most of the time you're going to be going straight into Heavy Metaphors Electromite first, but I think it's to basically kind of be used as a third copy of Called by the Grave if your opponent happens to, or kind of have that function, right? Like, let's just say you summon your Heavy Metaphors Electromite and your opponent wants to like Ghost Ogre it, or they want to use something like Impermanence. You chain this and then it makes it unaffected by those card effects, and you can basically just continue off with your play, and it kind of would have been the same as if you had this, but you get protection from the Impermanence as well. This was an interesting card. I didn't actually know what this did. The Speedroid Passing Rider. It's basically a machine level 5 that you can special summon if you control no monsters. So yeah, I can kind of see how this works. It's a card that, you know, it's a pendulum, so you can use it for Electromite, but at the same time, it being a level 5 makes it very easy to like pendulum summon because, you know, this deck already has a bunch of level 5s, and you can use it for Cyber Dragon Nova and there into Cyber Dragon Infinity. So I think this card actually makes good sense because if you're not going to inherently special summon it, then you can just pendulum summon it, and it basically works the same as all your other Dino Mist monsters. The rest of this stuff is you know, the Dino Mist cards, if you know anything about them, they don't really need they don't really need that much explaining. They really just function as like their own archetype, and you use them for either the pendulum effects, where they can kind of give your Dino Mist cards protection, and then they kind of like destroy themselves, and charge puts them back in your hand, or you can use them for, you know, like sea materials, and you can use them for link summoning with like Heavy Metaphors Electromite. Really good to see Moray of Greed, gives you more options to, you know, fix your hand in case you draw too many Dino Mist monsters. So much of this archetype, well, the entire archetype is water based, so you know, why not? And overall, I think that this is a pretty solid deck. I think the Symphonic Warriors, the fact that they're a machine, I think it just gives this deck such a big edge. Like, I know this guy, Symphonic Warrior Mites, is a level 5. If he hits the board, another card that can go into Nova Infinity, and the fact that their pendulum skills are so good, but also they're synchro based, and you know, I've said it before, we've gotten some really good synchros over the past year or so in Yu-Gi-Oh. You know, Konami's given us some really good synchro support, but I never thought that I'd see us like a Dino Mist deck or even a Symphonic deck summon DeLorean, and it'd be absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, just a nice little deck that shows that, you know, Dino Mist is a deck that still has a lot of potential, and I feel like people, maybe they gave up on it with Master Rule 4, but it's definitely still a legitimate deck. Now, all of these cards are in the TCG, with the exception of Borreload Savage Dragon, but everything else, you could actually play this deck and definitely make some waves.